Good morning. Monday morning, gentle flow. Oh, there we go. Hello, good morning. This is a gentle flow class for Monday morning. So, got a couple minutes before we start. Okay, great. So if you can find a prop you can use, whether a block or a book or can, that would be useful to have for today's class. So just take a moment to grab something that you can use, similar size to a block, whether it's a 4-inch or a 3-inch. And we'll start in about a minute. But if you're already on your mat, feel free to find your seat and Excellent. Let's go ahead and get started at 9:30 now. Thanks for joining. We'll spend the next 75 minutes practicing a gentle flow class. And for today's class, I wanted to focus on the idea that what we focus on, our thoughts, create our reality. So there is a well-known quote that's attributed to Lao Tzu, but really, whether or not he said it, it doesn't really matter. A lot of time these quotes we hear that attributed to different people, that there's no evidence that person said it, but that's not always important. The message of the quote is important, irrespective of where it came from. At any rate, this quote attributed to Lao Tzu starts with, watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your actions. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So effectively, what starts as a thought becomes our manifest way of being. So where do we want to focus our attention? Where are we going to, what thoughts will we anchor onto and hold and cling to? Which thoughts will we allow ourselves to be identified with? And it's not a simple overnight process or a flick of the switch. It's cultivating a practice of connecting with our higher self by not allowing these random thoughts to allow us to become attached to them, not allowing these thoughts to overtake our greater sense of self, our higher self. And so even though this quote, attributed to Lao Tzu, Eastern philosopher, is very comparable to the concept of the Yoga Sutras and those first three that often we come back to that remind us that this inner sense of connection with the infinite happens only in the present moment, not when the mind is distracted by the past or projecting into the future. It happens when we still the chatter of the mind, the mental modifications, the busyness of thought. Third sutra says it's when we have still the modifications of the mind, the chatter, the vrittis or whirlwinds, the Sanskrit word, is when we still those that we experience our true self, our higher essence. And so there's something for us to focus on today, to put our concentration on, that connecting inward to the true self. So while you're aware of the body, feel this heaviness in the seat, the pressing of the sits bones. You're aware of the upward lift through the spinal column. Observe the breath as it's entering through the nasal passage and into the lungs, expanding the barrel of the chest upward and outward. On the exhale, that slight recession. And bring the focus or concentration to the third eye, the space in between the eyebrows. And although we associate that with the areas of the brain responsible for parasympathetic, the parasympathetic nervous system, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the hippocampus, see if you might focus the awareness about 5 or 6 inches ahead of the third eye. So even with the eyes closed now, just envision the focus 5 or 6 inches ahead of the third eye. So putting our attention at that space, as we're still aware of the breath, and ever so gently let the hands rise from the laps, bringing the palms pressing together and bring the thumbs toward the heart center, Anjali Mudra. Allowing the palms to come back down to the thighs. I'm going to start with some gentle circular movements here. So just rocking around the circular motion on the pelvis, on the sits bones. Just slowly starting to bring some movement and lubrication to the joints, maybe in the hips, maybe in the back. Nice slow movements here. You can press the palms into the thighs. Really start to notice and be aware of any sensation in the body. Where are you feeling a strong awareness today? And be gentle. If you notice a particular point that feels maybe more sensation than usual, perhaps slowly moving back and forth over that spot a little bit. If you haven't started to do so, you can begin to move in the opposite direction. So as an example, I feel a little more sensation in my left hip than usual today, so I might just focus a little bit more right now on the left hip, just moving backwards and forwards a little bit. So depending on where you may be feeling extra sensation, you might like to experiment with that. And if nothing feels out of the ordinary today, just keep those circular movements now for warming up. As we come back to neutral upright position, we're going to take the hands out in front of us on tented fingertips, spider tip fingers, and start to walk the fingertips forward. We're really leaning forward as we extend the torso out of the pelvis and begin to lower the forehead down in the direction of the mat. It might not reach. You might notice the sit bones of the buttocks start to lift off the seat. So there's options available here. You can actually allow them to come up as you lower the forehead down, or keep the sit bones anchored down and just come as far forward as you can. That's comfortable. Breathing into sensation. Let the head relax. You ever feel any pinching in the low back? Of course you want to come out of here. We're really looking to extend the low back so that we may feel some sensation, but it's a pleasant sensation. It's not any sort of shooting pain. Definitely always back out of anything that feels like it's shooting. I'm going to walk back up on our fingertips. As we take the hands now behind us, pressing into the hands, let the sternum up toward the ceiling, let the head slightly come back as you gaze upward. And then coming back to neutral on the sit bones. Let's inhale the arms up, overhead, palms facing toward the ceiling and now facing toward one another as the fingertips reach up toward the ceiling. Turning the torso over the right thigh, lower the left hand down to the right thigh, and the right hand falls to the floor behind you. Pressing down either through the right palm or on right tented fingers as you give additional lift to the spinal column, soft gaze over the right shoulder if that feels okay for the neck. If there's any tenderness or tension in the neck, just keep the gaze looking directly forward, the chin directly over the sternum. Keep breathing into this twist. On the next exhale, we're just going to begin to bring the torso around to the front as we take the right hand to the left thigh and the left hand close into the spine behind. Soft gaze over that left shoulder again, or once more, just the gaze forward, chin over the sternum. Whichever direction your gaze is looking, just keep the chin parallel to the floor. Keep feeling that lift upward through the spinal column. As you press down through the hand behind you, give additional lift upward, and also see if you can open this left shoulder toward the wall behind you a little more. That gives more of the twist in the trunk and torso. And we'll inhale ourselves back to center. As we prepare to come toward a C curve here, we're going to take the right hand out alongside us. We want to keep both sits bones rooted down to the ground. Taking the left arm out to the side, palm facing upward, start to raise it up towards the ceiling and keep bringing it all the way over until the left fingertips come pointing toward the right wall, the wall on your right hand side. Make sure you don't collapse into the right palm, just there to prop yourself up and brace yourself. Extend the left fingertips toward the wall on the right. Really start to notice an opening through the muscles, or in the intercostal muscles, the ones interspersing through the ribs on the left-hand side of the body here. There is an option to gently move the head side to side as if you were shaking your head no. Just really slowly. And again, it's really about how it feels for you. So if you've got tenderness or tension in the neck, just hold it steady. As we inhale our torso upright, we'll lower the left hand down to the ground. And this time as we raise the right arm, palm facing up, start to raise it toward the ceiling and then up overhead. Now the fingertips of the right hand reach and extend toward the wall on the left. Keeping the right sit bone rooted down. Once more, an option to move the head side to side if that feels okay for the neck. And as we inhale the torso upright, bringing the right hand down to the ground. So we're going to come again forward now with the spider tip fingers in front of us. Now this time, see if you can keep the sits bones rooted down. And instead of just folding forward, feel as if you're extending the torso up out of the pelvis. Now walking the fingertips forward. And just as far as feels good, we're really elongating the spinal column. Keep the sits bones rooted down. If there's space for you, if you're able to, you can come down on the forearms. For some of you, perhaps you're able to lower your forehead right down to the ground. And then let the head relax. So we're letting the head hang. Muscles in the back of the neck are just resting here. Breathing deeply as you feel the elongation of the spinal column forward. Now walking again up on tented fingers to bring ourselves upright. Once more, we're going to take the hands back behind us, fingertips either facing backward or forward, whatever feels best for your shoulders. And then lift the sternum up toward the ceiling as you gently drop the head slightly backward and gaze upward. So really lifting the torso out of the pelvis again. And then we'll bring ourselves back to neutral on our sits bones. Let's go ahead and move toward a tabletop position. So if you've been sitting on a block or bolster, you can set that aside now. As you line up in tabletop, hands directly under the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. So one quick word, we often talk about the hands are directly under the shoulders. This is obviously a reminder to say what feels best for you. In some cases, a few people might prefer to bring your palms a little bit further forward, maybe 3 or 4 inches further forward. So we want to maintain a straight arm, and for some people, it might feel a little better to have the palms further forward. For perhaps most of us, directly under the shoulders, but really it's about attuning to what feels best for you. Feel an evenness and naturalness pressing through the palms as you spread the fingers wide. Gaze is looking to the floor, crown of the head is reaching forward. We'll move through some cat and cow poses here. So as you come toward cat, you exhale, arch the back, tuck the chin to the chest, pelvis rocks in. And then as you inhale and come to cow, you rock the pelvis back, take the chin off the chest, soften the belly, crown of the head goes somewhat toward the ceiling. Exhale to a cat pose, arching the back, tuck the chin. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Inhale to cow. Few more times now, flowing with your breath on the exhale, coming to cat, on the inhale, coming to cow. Now just noticing a few preferential positions for yourself here. You might have the back toes tucked as you keep flowing through cat and cow. Perhaps you have the shoelaces, the toenails of the ground connecting with the ground. Beautiful. So we'll come back to neutral tabletop position, and then we'll sit back to child's pose, sinking the buttocks back to the heels. You can either keep the knees together, or if you take the knees to the outside edges of the mat, keep the big toes touching, and then lower the forehead down to the mat. If coming to child pose is not available for you, the other option is to come to alternate resting pose. Similar to child pose, except that rather than taking the buttocks back to the heels, keep the buttocks raised in the air with the hips directly over the knee, lowering the forearms down to the mat, and then the head down to the mat. If the head doesn't quite reach the mat, you can rest it on stacked fists. Or if you have a block handy or a book or something, you can always just rest your forehead on that. That's alternate resting pose to keep the hips directly over the knees. If child's pose isn't available to you, like bringing the buttocks right back to the heels. We're going to come back up toward tabletop position. We're going to come toward a slight C curve, similar to our seated C curves. This one, we want to start to arc the right side of the body over to the right-hand side, sending the hips to the left and the shoulders to the left as you gaze over the left shoulder. So you're feeling a little bit of a C curve in the torso here. Bringing the head back to center, and then we'll do this on the opposite side. So the hips are going to the right-hand side as you gaze over the right shoulder. The middle of the left side of the body sort of arcs slightly over to the left side. Bring the head back to center, and we'll repeat this on the opposite side. A little bit of lateral stretching in the side body here as you come back to center. And gaze over the right shoulder again, back to center, and gaze over the left shoulder. And bringing the head back to center. So we're going to prepare for some downward dog here. So remember again, pressing through all 5 fingertips. Keep a straight arm here, an external rotation in the upper arm bone. So notice that those elbow pits turn more forward than inward. And tuck the toes with the knees bent, lift the hips backward and lift out of the palms. Take the hips back as you take them up.
We'll spend a few moments here warming up our dog. If you drop one heel, as you bend the opposite knee and move to the other side. So if this becomes too intense for you, you just need to drop your knees and come to either child's pose or alternate resting pose. We spend a little bit of time in down dog here. So as we come to a neutral down dog, we're going to raise the right leg a few inches off the ground, bring it behind the left leg, and lower the foot back to the mat. Now the pinky toes, small toes, are near one another. Really noticing some sensation in the back of the leg. If it's too extreme, you can always bend the knees a little bit. And raise the right leg up, bring it back to its original position. And repeat with the opposite side. Take the left leg a few inches off the ground, behind the right leg, lower the foot back down. Again, the small toes alongside one another. Keep lifting the hips back and up as you lift out of the hands. Raise the left leg, bring it back to its original position. Let's go ahead and drop down to our knees, either alternate resting pose or child's pose. You're taking child's pose, take the buttocks back to the heels, and in either event, forehead to the mat. So regardless of whether you are in child's pose or alternate resting pose, having the arms stretched out in front of you, pressing through the fingertips, raising the forearms off the mat, keep the forehead resting on the ground or in that direction, and start to walk the hands off the left-hand side of the mat. If you're in child's pose, sinking the buttocks back toward the heels. If you're in alternate resting pose, the hips are still directly above the knees. And we'll walk the hands back to the center of the mat, and then off the opposite side of the mat. Again, a little bit of a lateral stretch in the side body. And walk the hands back to center. We're going to come up to down dog again as a transition towards standing. So pressing through the palms, bend the knees, and lift into down dog. And now walk the hands back toward the direction of the feet until the center of gravity is right over the feet. Now you're standing on your feet in a forward fold. Head is hanging heavy. Crown going toward the direction of the ground. Nose going toward the knees. The arms hang heavy, like empty coat sleeves. They might be hanging in the air, or perhaps if they reach the ground, just let the wrists and palms relax. And then we'll ragdoll the spine upwards. So we want the knees to be deeply bent here. We're going to keep the chin tucked toward the chest. It's going to be the last part to come up. As you start to root through the feet and unfurl the spine, continue to let the arms hang heavy like empty coat sleeves. One vertebra at a time as you rise upward towards standing. And eventually making our way up to a mountaintop position. So root down squarely through the feet. So the four corners of each foot, the big toe mound, little toe mound, inside and outside edges of the heel. We're not bearing any weight into the toes themselves here. Squarely rooted down. We're going to activate the muscles of the legs by hugging the muscles to the bone. Continue to feel an upward lift all the way through the spinal column, right up through the crown of the head. So envision that imaginary string that gently lifts the crown of the head up toward the ceiling. And now we want to broaden the front chest, upper chest here,
pulling the scapula, pardon me, the clavicles, the collarbones apart. The scapula and the back body will come together. How we want to do this is by rotating the arm bone in the shoulder socket. So rotate the arm bone. You'll notice this causes the entire arm to turn, effectively bringing the palms to face forward. Notice how the scapula are coming together in the back body. You create a broadness in the front upper chest. Almost creates a greater sense of ease of breath into the upper lobe of the lung. And now let's inhale the arms overhead and bring the palms pressing together back down to heart center. A few times here, circle the arms around, palms facing up as you raise the arms overhead, bring the palms together, and bring the hands back down to heart center. A little bit of sun salutation here. Sanskrit is Surya Namaskar. This is series A. We're going to start in a moment here, which will include some swan dives to come to a hanging forward fold momentarily. Beautiful. And pausing with the hands at heart center. So the next time we bring the arms around up overhead, we're going to come through to a swan dive. So circle the arms around, bring them up overhead. Now as you spread the arms out to the side, swan dive through center. You can bend the knees if needed. Coming down toward a hanging forward fold. Fingertips in the direction of the toes. As we inhale, we come to a halfway lift. We want to have a straight spinal column here. So you want to perhaps bring the palms partway at the shins. As you exhale, coming back down to a hanging forward fold. And now reverse swan dive. Bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around and rise up to standing arms overhead, and then back down to heart center. So we'll do 3 more of these. Let's circle the arms around, coming through to swan dive here. Coming down to a hanging forward fold, fingertips in front of the toe. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Reverse swan dive, bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around, bringing them up overhead, and hands back down to heart center. Pause here for breath. 3 more. Circle the arms overhead. Come through in a swan dive. Lead with the sternum as the arms come out to the side, fingertips in front of the toe. Inhale, halfway lift or diver's pose, it's called as well. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Now bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around, rise up to standing arms overhead and down to heart center. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale the arms out and around, up overhead, come through to swan dive. Bringing the fingertips toward the toes, hang the head heavy. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hanging forward fold. Bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around, come up towards standing arms overhead and down to heart center. One last time after a breath cycle here. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, circle the arms around, up overhead, coming through to a swan dive. Fingertips toward the toes. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold, reverse swan dive, bend the knees, root through the feet, circle the arms around, up overhead, bringing the hands down to heart center. And just pausing here, connecting with the breath. Again, see if you can bring the focal concentration to the area in front of the third eye, a few inches forward. And just observe sensation in the body. Where are you feeling sensation? Observe the state of the mind. Just see if thoughts are coming. They will come. Just let them go. Try not to anchor on to any thought that arises. Non-attachment, aparigraha, one of the yans and niyans, and the 8 limbs of classical yoga. Beautiful, we're going to open our eyes. So we're going to come toward a warrior 2 pose. So remember with warrior 2, rather than in warrior 1 where both hips are facing forward, in warrior 2 they're sort of more turned toward the front corner of the mat. So your forward foot, we'll start with the right leg forward. You want to root down to the 4 corners of the foot. Keep the knee directly over the ankle, so your shin bone is perpendicular to the ground. Your back foot, you turn out about a 45-degree angle. Ultimately, it depends how it feels for your hip. Some people do prefer to have it turned more perpendicular to the back edge of the mat, but really it's about what feels best for you. So for many people, keep it pointing about 45-degree angles, so roughly the front corner of your mat. Keep the torso perpendicular to the floor. Keep more weight on the outer edge of the back foot than the front foot, and make sure you're not crunching into the front toes. Quickly lift just the toes, not the toe mound, and make sure you're squarely rooted through the 4 corners of the foot. You can lower the toes back down again. Take the arms out at shoulder height, reach and extend them in the opposite direction. Gaze over the forward middle finger here. So you can maintain the chin parallel with the floor, and again, imaginary string lifting the crown of the head up toward the ceiling. Maintain the natural flow of your breath, always in a physical practice. The asanas, that's one of the 8 limbs of classical yoga. The breath is always fluidly moving in our physical poses. Should you ever notice the breath actually become labored, that's actually an indication that perhaps you've gone past your edge. So if you find the breath becomes labored, maybe back up in that pose a little bit. For example, if I'm in warrior 2 and I'm just becoming exhausted, maybe bring the legs in a little bit closer together. If you're at a point where you're not really feeling anything at all, perhaps see if you can challenge yourself and go a little bit deeper so you feel some sensation but not going beyond that edge. Let's come to exalted warrior. Rotate the forward palm, raise it overhead as you drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Keep reaching and lifting that forward hand, fingertips up toward the ceiling. You notice the entirety of the muscles come all the way through the shoulder girdle, almost all the way down to the waist on the right hand side. You're lifting up. The gaze can either go up toward the raised hand, if that feels okay for your neck, or just keep the gaze looking directly forward, chin parallel to the floor. And we'll bring our arms back to shoulder height at warrior 2. We're going to prepare for triangle pose, Trikonasana. So straighten that forward leg, and then we're going to reach forward with the forward hand. Notice this back hip is going toward the direction of that back wall. Rotate the palms to face the wall and lower the forward hand to the inside of the forward leg as you raise the upper arm directly overhead. So you have a straight line running from the lower arm, fingertips pointing to the ground, and the other fingertips pointing up toward the ceiling. And we feel lift. We're not collapsing down here. We want to feel these ribs are knitting together here. So there's a sense of ease and space here, also in our hip here. So rather than collapsing down, keeping these ribs knitted together. The gaze can either be directly forward, neutral with the spine, or if it feels okay for the neck, you can also turn it up, the gaze toward the ceiling.
And we'll lift back up, sink back down into warrior two. We'll prepare to move toward the front of the mat. So you can either just step forward, or if you want to pivot on that back foot, the arms come out to the side, and you can spring forward to come toward mountain at the front of your mat. I'm just going to change my position to face the camera. And we'll move to the opposite side. So this time we're going to have the left leg forward. So we're going to take the right leg back behind us, turn that back foot out 45-degree angle with that forward foot facing the short edge of the mat. Remember not to crunch into the toes and make sure that forward knee directly over the forward ankle. Inhale the arms out to the side, keep the torso perpendicular to the floor, gaze over that forward middle finger. Really feel a broadness and reach through the arms as the fingertips go in the opposite direction. Soft, gentle gaze over the forward middle finger. Keep breathing here, sense of ease in the breath. And preparing for exalted warrior, rotate that forward palm, raise it overhead as you drop the back palm onto the back thigh. Again, reach and extend the fingertips all the way up here. Notice how it lifts all the way right from the waist, all the way up through the shoulder girdle, lifting the entire side, left side, upward here. Again, either keep the gaze looking directly forward, chin parallel to the floor, or an option to turn the gaze and look up toward the raised hand. And as we let the arms come back down, shoulder height, warrior two. Now straighten that forward leg. Reach forward with the forward fingertips. Rotate the palms. Lower the forward hand, the inside of the forward leg, and raise the other arm directly up overhead. Again, knitting the upper ribs together here. Reach and extend the upper arm upward here. Option to gaze directly to the side wall with the head neutral with the spine, or turn the gaze up toward the raised hand. If there's too much impingement in the shoulder of the raised arm, you can bend at the elbow of that raised arm. Let the back of the hand come toward the small of the back. And then keep opening that shoulder toward the wall behind you. If you did bend at the elbow, go ahead and straighten it momentarily so we can lift from the upper fingers to bring ourselves back up, arms out at shoulder height, sink back down into that forward leg for warrior two. And then either stepping to the front of the mat or pivot on that back foot, spring forward to come toward mountain pose at the front of the mat. Let's pause here, turn the attention inward, close the eyes if it feels okay. Focusing on the breath and state of the mind. Beautiful, and opening the eyes. So we're going to come toward our tree pose here. I'm just going to move this book off my mat. Easier to be on a sticky mat in a balancing pose, I find. So in our tree pose, we're going to root down through the right foot, four corners,
And unlike Warrior 2, where there's no weight on the toes here, although we're not bearing a lot of weight on them, they are used to sort of assist in the stabilization of the standing leg. We'll come onto the tiptoes of the left foot. Keep the right leg active and engaged as you hug the muscles to the bone. And now open the left hip. Now bringing the left knee goes out 90-degree angle off of the right leg. So opening out toward 90-degree angle. The left heel is resting just above the inside of the right ankle. It's a perfectly fine expression of tree. However, if you feel inclined to raise that left leg off the ground, you can bring the sole of the left foot onto the right calf. And some people actually are able to bring the left sole of the left foot to the inner right thigh. But we always want to avoid having it on the knee. And wherever you're at, whether your foot is still on the ground or whether the foot is on the leg, press the leg into whatever part of the foot's connecting with it and the foot back into the leg. So we get that sense of adduction inward here. Then let the hands perhaps come to heart center, or maybe it feels more natural for you for them to come alongside the ears like branches of a tree. Possibly even interlacing into temple. In temple, you would interlace the fingers, the pointer finger going up toward the ceiling, and you keep a straight arm in temple. Focus perhaps on a non-moving point a few feet in front of us. The soft, gentle gaze, the drishti gaze. And then bringing the hands back down, releasing that leg, and just any complementary movement to maybe shake it out or move in a different direction here. Now remember, there's always an option to come toward the wall if you're concerned about a sense of stabilization and you just want a little bit of support. You can always bring one hand toward the wall, and you don't have to lean into it. It can just sort of be there to brace you. So feel free to come toward the side of a wall for these standing balance poses. While they're really great for maintaining bone density, bone strength, keeping, solidifying, strengthening muscle. If balance is a concern, then certainly come toward the wall. So move to the opposite side, rooting down through the four corners of the left foot, tiptoes of the right foot, and again, open the hip out to the side, so toward a 90-degree angle. As you begin resting the heel just above the ankle. If you're at your full expression here, you can go ahead and bring the hands where they're called to. Otherwise, if you feel so inclined, you can raise the foot off the ground again, either to the calf or the inner thigh, and notice that adduction as you press the foot into the leg and the leg back into the foot. And once again, allow the hands to come where they're called to. And then bringing that drishti, soft, gentle gaze. Beautiful. Couple more breaths. And letting the hands come down and releasing the legs. So remember, even when I say something like a couple more breaths, it's really about your practice. This is your practice. So if you need to come out sooner than that, by all means you do that. So it's ultimately one of maybe the biggest goal of yoga is to connect with what is your right path. And so if it is to come out sooner, then you honor that. You honor and listen to what your body's needing. So we're going to move down toward our mat, Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the practice, if you have a block, perhaps if you don't have a block, maybe some stack of hard copy books. You can actually even use something like a tin can, like a soup can, full one, that's still strong and steady. We're just going to be utilizing our blocks here as we move down toward the mat. We're going to come into a pose called equestrian pose or horse rider pose. So I'll demonstrate it from both sides for you. Before we move into that, I'm going to walk us through it. But the knee, again, always will be directly over the ankle. And we're looking for sensation in the back thigh. So it might mean that you walk that knee further back here on the shoelaces of the foot. And then the props eventually will assist us to prop ourselves up here because we want to feel the torso lifting out of the pelvis. So let's go ahead and grab our props. Now, if you have sensitive knees, you can always double up your mat or put a blanket underneath. So as we're starting sort of in a tabletop position here, we're going to then just walk one foot forward. The right foot to start, the right foot, sole of on the ground, the heel directly underneath the knee or the ankle as well. Squarely, hips squared forward here. And then the back knee, you can walk that leg further back if you want more sensation in the thigh, the front of the back leg. And then prop yourself up on your blocks. You can always do this directly on the ground if you don't have a prop. However, we're looking to get that, again, extension of the torso out of the pelvis here. And coming right down on the ground sort of it causes a little constriction there. And you want this sort of sense of lift. Notice that lift if you have a prop, that you're lifting the torso out of the pelvis. Breathe into any sensation that arises. And if you can either maintain that a few more breaths, or if it's available for you, you can lift the torso upright and bring the palms onto the thigh. Beautiful. Lower the hands back down if you've raised them up. And we're going to change the leg out. So you can bring the right leg back now. Bring the left foot forward. Knee directly over the ankle and heel. Walking that right leg further back for more sensation in the front of the right thigh. But again, not so much that you're beyond your edge. And then pressing the palms or tented fingers into your prop, your block, or books, or soup can. And again, if you don't have anything, you can always bring the fingertips to the ground, but see that you can keep lifting the torso out. You want to prevent collapsing down here. Lift and extend the torso out of the pelvis. Few more breaths here. And option to raise the torso up and bring the palms onto the thigh. Beautiful. We'll go ahead and lower ourselves back down. Remove the blocks. Let's take that leg back to meet the other. We're going to move down onto our back. We're going to come down into a reclined pigeon pose. So for those who've been to my classes at the Senior Center here, you might remember that pigeon is a pose we do on the front where one leg and knee is brought forward like this. But for some people, this isn't available for them, whether it's some discomfort in the knee or whatnot, in which case we do a reclined version of it on our back. If you are familiar with pigeon and you prefer to take it that way, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, for the rest of us, as we come down onto our back, we'll bend our knees, soles of the feet are flat on the ground. So this is also known as figure 4 pose. So we're going to take the
right foot off the ground, the knee bent. Rest the outside of the right ankle just above the left knee on the left thigh. And then gently pressing on the inner right thigh to open that hip. Gently pressing the leg toward the wall in front of you. Now this is the beginning of our figure 4, and this is a perfectly fine variation if this is the extent that you feel is appropriate for you today. If it's available to you, another option now is to bring the hands, the right hand between the legs, the left hand on the outside of the left leg, taking the left foot off the ground, and wrap the hands around the back of the left thigh. This is one option. Another option is if you bend the knee deeply, you bring the hands around the front of the left shin. Notice that the further you do this, different variation of this, the more sensation you'll feel in your right hip flexor. So if it's too much sensation, then just bring the hands back to the back of the thigh or lower the foot down to the ground and just open the hip this way. Whichever variation you're in, perhaps the hands around the back of the leg or the shin, you can keep the head and shoulders resting on the ground, or if you want a little bit more heat, you can raise the head and shoulders and bring the knee of the left leg toward the nose. If you did raise the head and shoulders, go ahead and lower them down. Release the leg, lower the left foot down to the ground. Now uncross the leg. As you place the right foot back on the ground, take the left foot off the ground and come to figure 4 on this side here. So to begin with, the right sole of the foot flat on the ground, left leg's crossed over it, gently pressing on the inside of the left thigh to open this hip. Pressing the leg gently in the direction of the wall in front of you. And once again, an option to take the right foot off the ground. You bring the hands around the back of the right thigh, or perhaps around the front of the right shin. So remember, the left hand comes between the two legs, right hand to the outside of the right leg. And either resting the head and shoulders on the ground, or taking the knee up, the nose up toward the knee. The beauty of yoga that this version of figure 4, some call it, is known as reclined pigeon. So for some people, maybe there's just restriction in joints, or there's too much sensation or pain, or maybe if there's been a knee replacement, it's just not possible to do a pigeon. So it's an option to work the same part of the body, in this case the hip flexor, by modifying the pose. So there's always an option to adjust to a manner or position that's appropriate for you. As you release the leg, go ahead and bring the sole of the right foot back to the ground and uncross the legs again. Now both soles of the feet flat on the ground. Let's take the arms away from the body in a T formation and start to windshield wiper the legs. So dropping them a little bit to one side, bringing them back up to center, dropping them toward the other side. So the feet are still on the ground as you windshield wiper the legs side to side. Now you might start to bring more of this into a twist of the torso, in which case you start to gaze over the opposite shoulders of the direction the knees are falling. And then eventually we're going to go ahead and drop the knees over toward the left-hand side. You can stack the knees one on top of the other and then gaze over the right shoulder. Bring the head back to center as you rest on the back of the skull. Raise the legs back up to center now. And now drop them to the opposite side, the right hand side, and then turn the gaze over the left shoulder. Really feeling a beautiful stretch and twist here. Lateral stretch through the side of the body, left side of the body. Knees moving in the direction of the ground. For some of you, the knees might be on the ground. If they're floating there, that's fine as well. You breathing oxygen into any area of sensation. And we'll bring the head back into center, raising the legs back up to the middle. Now take the soles of the feet pressing together and let the knees splay out to the side. And now bend the arms at the elbow, rest the palms on the belly. Perhaps the fingertips coming toward one another, maybe the middle finger touching across the belly to the other middle finger. And then another option is perhaps you come in a diamond shaped hand. So you would bring the forefingers and the thumbs to touch, creating a diamond type shape, and then rest that diamond just over the navel or belly button. As we pause here to warm down our practice in this reclined cobbler pose, or some traditions call it butterfly, some call it goddess. Really focusing the awareness on the breath. Notice how it raises the belly on the inhale. Maybe causing the fingertips to separate slightly. As you exhale, the belly recedes. Really is quite a miraculous marvel, this life-sustaining oxygen. Taking the time just to observe this flow of breath inward and outward, and how it impacts our bodies, and expands and changes the shape. Focusing the awareness on the breath is such a useful tool to immediately anchor itself back to the present moment. You know, at times it can be challenging or tricky if our mind is getting distracted by possibilities of what could happen in the future. Really, none of us have a crystal ball. None of us know. So there's not a lot to be gained from worrying. Well, I should say there's nothing to be gained from worrying. If you find your mind gets caught up and pulled away with thoughts of the future that aren't helpful, use this as a tool to just anchor back into the present moment. Take a few moments, just go sit and focus the awareness on the breath. Holding this goddess or butterfly pose a few more breaths, maybe 30 more seconds. But if you're feeling really strong sensation now in the hips or the groin, go ahead and bring the knees up together toward one another. Take the soles of the feet to the outside edge of the mat and the knees fall in. Here is a little bit of counter movement and relaxation in the hips. If you find that goddess pose a little tired on the hips after that length of time. I know some of you really enjoy it, so just leave that for a few more minutes. Now we're all going to bring our knees together and our ankles together, and then take the feet off the ground as you wrap your palms around the shins, and hug the knees in toward the chest. So gentle rocking side to side here. And then we're going to come toward a happy baby. So in happy baby, the soles of the feet are going to go up toward the ceiling, but it's important that we're bringing the knee in the direction of the armpit. So whether your hands reach just partway on the legs, or if you're able to reach the hands all the way around the feet, maybe the outside edges, maybe the inside edges, or perhaps you want to take your peace fingers around the big toes. In any event, wherever the hands are, notice that the knee is coming toward the direction of the armpit and the soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. Now this really allows a spreading and broadening of the low back. You can remain stationary here or gently rocking side to side. This pose in Sanskrit is known as Ananda Balasana, happy child pose, happy baby pose. Appropriate name. I think it's a beautiful name, Ananda. Ananda is bliss. Happy, blissful baby. And as you come back to neutral and center, releasing the legs, we're going to prepare for Shavasana. Final resting pose. So if your body is asking any other movement just to release that last bit of energy before you come to final resting pose, go ahead and take any final pose that you might be called to. Otherwise, if you're feeling complete and you're ready to come to Shavasana, you can go ahead and coming down, the legs stretched out in front of you, letting the feet splay outward. Remember, always an invitation to bend the knees. If you're feeling extra sensation in the low back, you can spend Shavasana with the soles of the feet on the ground and the knees bent. That helps again to spread that low back. But if you're in the traditional variation, the legs stretched out in front of you, feet splaying outward, arms are alongside the body. If you can rest the hands on the back of the hand with the palm and fingertips facing up. The arms are about 15 degrees off of midline. If you notice your head is collapsing back onto the back of the skull, almost like there's a bend in the trachea. If you think of a garden hose, a little bit of a bend, it's most effective when a garden hose when it's in a straight line. So much like that, a trachea, if you lift the back of the head an inch off the ground and lengthen the back of the neck and lower the head back down onto the occipital ridge, notice a greater sense of openness in the trachea. And also what's called the Sushumna channel, the energy channel in yoga called Sushumna. Other modalities like Tai Chi and Qigong have different terminology for the channels that our life force moves through. And then once again, bring the awareness to the direction of the third eye, maybe a few inches ahead of the third eye, 5 or 6 inches ahead of the third eye, and focus the concentration. Really feel a sense of collapse, a sense of release and relaxation. Feel the body heavy, with the weight of gravity sinking you down. We'll spend a few more moments in Shavasana to really allow an integration of the practice, to really allow our parasympathetic nervous system to come to the fore.
And with one deep breath, starting to just bring some vitality back to the body. And as you start to make some very small and small, subtle gestures, maybe wiggle the fingers and toes, maybe starting to rotate the wrists and ankles. Just starting to move in any way that feels revitalizing, re-energizing. Perhaps it feels nice to bring the arms overhead alongside the ground and have a big stretch, like you're waking from sleep. Perhaps it feels nice to hug the knee into the chest and gently rock side to side. And eventually we'll roll over to the right-hand side in a fetal position. And just pause here momentarily. Beautiful transition. Shavasana is the Sanskrit word for corpse pose. So as we transition from this to a fetal position, it is a beautiful imagery, reminder that every moment is a new beginning. The past is behind us. The past effectively has died to us. And each instant we are reborn. Each moment affords us the opportunity of a fresh start. So you stretch out the upper leg and pressing into the upper arm, bring yourself to an upright seated position. Take a moment to close our practice. So today I'm going to invite us to bring our palms one over top of the other at heart center. May you feel a fullness in your heart. May you feel love. May you feel compassion and empathy, kindness and grace. You always maintain aspects of this inwardly as you shine it outwardly to all you encounter. The eternal in me acknowledges and bows to the eternal in you. In addition to the tradition in many lineages of closing a practice with namaste, in primary tradition in which I studied the Amrit lineage, we close our practice with the words Jai Bhagawan, which means may the spirit be victorious. So to close, I say both to you, Jai Bhagawan and Namaste. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here. I'll be here each Monday, 9:30 to 10:45 Pacific Standard Time. That's 8 hours off of UTC for this gentle flow. I'm also teaching Fridays a Hatha Flow class, which will be on Zoom, and that is to support Yoga by the Sea in keeping the doors open so that once we're all out of this self-isolating, we can get back to our yoga studios. So anyway, be well, take good care, and I look forward to connecting with you again.